Hello, I'm Czardus, and let's play City Skylines. Today I'm going to show you the 5 brand new maps from the Hotels and Retreats DLC that just came out this week, so be sure to stick around and see those maps if you are interested in purchasing the DLC. So first up, we have the Coastal Flatlands map, which is a temperate map, and as you can guess, it is on the coast, and it has a lot of flat land. Gee, I wonder where they got the name from. But anyway, let's move on over to the start square. This map is a very good one if you are running vanilla, which I have a feeling, I haven't looked at all the maps yet, but I have a feeling that it will be a common theme for maps in this pack because they are official maps. But anyway, the start square, you have a very typical vanilla start square. You've got an interchange coming in and a lot of flat land. Speaking of which, let's go ahead and look at the terrain. And as you can see, it is very flat through here. It does have some very deep rivers through here, and I'm willing to bet that this river is not actually a river, but is actually the sea level. In fact, it might be that for a lot of the map. It makes it easier to build, and so that's why they do that. But you can see there is quite a bit of water flow here. So, but you do have to be careful there. No, okay, it looks like the water is flowing well. So if you don't have Sunset Harbor, you could easily get your sewage out there. You will want to be careful in your start square because you'll need to dump your sewage out here. And you'll want to have a water tower for your intake, because otherwise your sewage will go to wherever you put that intake on that start square. So that is one tip. Now, looking at the natural resources, you have a lot of fertile land right around the start square. You could get some farms out there. You have forestry over there. You've got ore over this way. Oil, you'll have to make a choice. If you want to go for oil, you need to go out 2 tiles, and pretty much, I mean, if you go this way, you'll get some land there that you'll probably want, and then you can go that way, but you won't be able to get this offshore oil from there. But that is one way to do it. Now, looking at transit, you do have a ship path that comes right through there. In the beginning of the video, you saw a ship going by, so we know that is available. Other transit, you have a rail, I think. Yep, the rail is way over here, though. So that could be an issue. If you're looking to get into your rail, let's see, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, it's going to be a stretch to get rail onto this map. So that is one thing. If you're not using any mods, that's one thing to watch. But overall, it is a nice little map. It has a little bit of a castle here, so you can kind of have a feature or a story, a backstory to your town. And of course, the road comes off this way, and then it goes in both directions there. You've got out external connections there, and then the same thing over this way. Goes off and off the map. So you have 3 external connections for rail, or for roads, sorry about that. And then you have that rail that is pretty far away, but you might be able to get to it. But generally, you have a lot of building space. Let's look at the terrain one more time. And yeah, it is very flat and very, very buildable. So that is Coastal Flatlands. Let's move on to the next one. Next on the list, we have Emerald Cliffs. This is a European map, so it is a little bit different from the flat one. You do have some cliffs, but you have plenty of buildable space. Once again, you have a couple of different decisions to make. One is that the shipping is a little bit farther away from the start square. You do have easier access to the rail than the last map, but that shipping is farther away, so that is one decision to make. And also, you have a few different types of ruins that you can incorporate into your city build as well. Here is the start square, and as you can see, it is once again a typical vanilla start. Let's go ahead and check the terrain. It's very flat for your start. Now, you do have to get your water on one side. Let's check the flow there, though. It does have a water source here. You can tell that because there is water flowing away from there. So you could put your intake over here and your outflow down here, and you would be okay with that. Or, of course, you could use water towers like I typically like to do. Now, looking at the terrain again, you do have a lot of flat land in here, which is probably where the bulk of your city is going to go, and I'll show you why. Looking at the transit, you can see we've got the ship path comes in here. It does come in over here a little bit, so you could go the alternate route and go this way. But if you do that, then you're going to miss out on your rail, which is over here. And so it'd probably be easier to get that rail incorporated if you generally build your city over on this inlet here, rather than over here. Now, the other thing that is interesting about this map is there's a highway here that provides an external connection, but it just stops. It does not connect to your city. So that is one interesting thing. If you build out this way, I mean, that is a long way away. That's 1, 2, maybe 3 tiles away. You could get there and you could connect to that. So that is a very interesting part of this. Let's take a look at the natural resources. Once again, you have fertile land around your start square. That makes it good for if you have the industries DLC, or even if you're doing just specialized zoned industry, that can be helpful. You do have oil right around here on this map. You've got plenty of oil that you could utilize, and ore is a little bit harder, especially if you're building out this way. Your ore is probably going to have to come from here or over there, and that is going to be a little bit of a challenge. You can see it here. Again, if you're building or buying the tiles out this way, then perhaps you want to build your city this way. And that would be a very intriguing city design on that inlet. But yeah, that is the Emerald Cliffs. Let's move on to the next one. And next up, we have Maze Valley. Now, this is another European map. This one would be interesting to build on because of the terrain. It makes it very challenging to get to your city because getting up on those mesas will be really difficult. But of course, if you're playing vanilla, then most of your work will be done in the valley anyway. But it does make the whole thing interesting. And you know what just popped into my mind is Flappaliki's Sedona series from several years ago now, I guess, but it kind of is a similar map style, except of course it's not a desert theme like Sedona was. But anyway, coming in here to the start square, you can see it is very flat here. You've got a nice typical vanilla interchange in there, and then you've got buildable area. Looking at the terrain, of course, it is very flat down in the valley. That is very buildable, and you've got plenty of space that you can expand out this way and get a nice city in this valley. It would be very interesting to have that. Now, transit, you have a rail right on the other side of the river, so that is very easy. But shipping, you actually have in the river over here, and it comes around this island and then turns around. So that is what you've got. So you can do cargo shipping through there. And then, of course, like I said, you've got the rail over there. Natural resources, you have farming in the start square, or you can go over here or over there. You do have ore and oil and, of course, trees, but you can always add trees to add more forestry if you don't have them. But so you do have all of the resources in there. So it makes it quite buildable in here. And again, looking at the terrain, I could see a city growing out this way and out this way, and maybe having industry over on one side and a lot of residential on the other. Of course, then you need to have some good bridges going across, and it could really make for a nice thing. Now, one thing that you have a challenge with is this highway really cuts off. If you build your city here, it cuts your city off from the beautiful riverfront. So you may have to figure out how to get around that and work with that. But again, it is another fun, challenging, or somewhat challenging map, and it would be worthwhile to check out. So now let's move on to the next one. I am so excited to partner with Apex Gaming PCs to bring you a custom line of gaming PCs named after some of my most popular series. I've worked with their team to put together an amazing setup for playing games like Cities Skylines. There's a link to see the full line in both the description below and the pinned comment. Oh, and be sure to use the discount code Czardus to receive up to $250 off your purchase. And next up, we have Shifting Sands. And if you couldn't tell, this is a tropical themed map. By the way, the theme I'm using here is Owl's Tropicity, I think. But anyway, what you have here is a lot of sand, and greenery. It's like a river delta coming out of a desert, and that is what you're dealing with. You have different transit options that you can do. You've got the rail on one side of the river, and you've got the shipping line through the bay. But let's go ahead and take a look at that. So coming to the start square, again, as usual, you have a typical vanilla start where you've got your road coming out here, the highway coming into your start square. You've got a lot of area to work with in your start square to get going, and then you can expand from there. Terrain wise, it is very flat here, and so you can build a giant city through here, and that will be very very doable. Now, looking at the resources, you've got some fertile land around your start square, and you've got oil, and you have a little bit of ore that you can work with. Not a ton of those, but really what you're going to want to do is get a lot of a large city in here anyway. But like I said, transit, you've got the shipping comes into this bay, and then you have a rail that is way over here. So tile wise, you're going to have to decide. I mean, you can get into that shipping very easily, but you'll have to make a run over the river to get to your rail. But that won't be too difficult. And then, of course, down here, and here you've got a little bit of ruins. You've got a little bit of a Stonehenge and maybe a little village in there, and an old wall and castle and cemetery. So that is a nice little thing for adding to your backstory as well. And again, just generally, this is a nice, pretty map. You've got a bit of maybe sand dunes in the background over on that side, and a tiny one on this side, but really you've got that desert, and again, it's like a river delta coming out into here, so you've got a little bit of water near that that area, and that's why the land is fertile. But anyway, now I'm just rambling and trying to kill time, so let's move on to the next one. And the last map from this DLC is Weaving Waters, and this is a European map. It has as you can guess, a weaving river that winds through the map, and it has a nice bit of flatland that you can build on, as well as a good mix of resources and transit or transportation options. But again, it's going to be a strategic choice. Do you want rail, or do you want ships when you are playing vanilla? And I'll show you why in just a moment. But first, let's take a look at the start squares. So we are coming over here, and you have a bit of a spot to build here. And you can imagine that there is plenty enough space here. You can see that. And looking at the terrain, it is nice and flat. It's a very deep river, but it is a flat area here that you can build on, and of course there's a lot of flat land around it that you can expand into. Resources wise, you have a lot of fertile land here. You've got oil that you can get into very quickly, and you have just a little bit of ore here, or you can make your way over this way. But what I was saying about transit is you've got a ship path over here that ends in the river. It does not go all the way through the river, presumably because the river gets narrower, and so realistically it would be challenging enough for the ships to get down here because they'd probably have to turn around at times and stuff like that, but over here it would just not be possible. But rail, you do have rail over on this side, so that is where your choice is going to have to be. Are you going to get both of them? I mean, it's possible to get both of them, because you could get this tile here, and then you could go a couple that way, and then you'd have like a elongated city, or you could do a square, and I suppose you might be able to get just a corner over there. But it might be worthwhile to play this a couple of different times so that you have a different flavor each time, or of course use mods and unlock more. But yeah, this map in general is rather intriguing. That terrain from the river would make it pretty cool to build on, especially with these giant oxbows in the river, as the river kind of formed its way weaving through there, and I think it would be a fun one. But hopefully you have enjoyed this video with all of the maps, and be sure to click on the video on the screen, which will take you to another video showing other maps that you can get. So thanks for watching, and I will catch you next time. Take care.